So on some very interesting news, I don't know if you guys have seen, there's an interview that the DA minister, the Minister of Basic Education has done. And she's saying, according to her, there's nothing wrong with the Bela bill. Black people are just overreacting. That's just according to her. But of course, I'm gonna play the clip for you guys so you can hear for yourself what she has to say. So I don't know what you guys will conclude, because she's also saying there's nothing wrong with the government rejecting those sections, section 5 and section 4 of the bill. But you'll hear what she had to say. And she also said there's nothing wrong with black people being taught in their own home languages, Afrikaners being taught in their home languages, and white kids being taught in their home language, because it's better for understanding. But there she is.
The Bela Act, how does it help an impoverished black child?
So firstly, the more important, but there are key important things I think that are really essential from the act. Number one, it's important to note that the act is basically a culmination of case law over years. It's an amendment of the basic laws. It's an amendment bill and an act, but it's essentially putting together what the department has been taken to court and lost over. So now it's putting that all in a piece of legislation to say this is how the sector should operate. Number one, I think for me the biggest thing that is really useful is making grade R compulsory. It is a bold step because, like I said, your kid in this area probably has gone to grade 000 before they get to grade R. To make it compulsory, it means that the child in Kwakwa too has to have grade R. But it's a step in the right direction, but it needs funding. So that's been my message to the President and to the Minister of Finance, to say this is absolutely the right way to go, but we need to fund it. We are 60% of the way there, but I'm not entirely convinced that even the 60% is of quality. Because grade R teachers will tell you in KZN that we get paid a stipend and not a salary. Already that tells you that it is educators who are not necessarily being valued, which means that you are not putting value in that area. So there has to be a complete dimensional shift. So the Bela Act seeks to do that. That is exciting for me. It needs to be really backed up with finances, but also governance. We are quick, and I would hate for the Minister of Finance to hear this, but we're always quick to say government has no money. But sometimes it's also about governance. And are we doing justice to governance? Are we setting up systems? Because you can have money, but it can disappear because you don't have proper systems. So that's going to be the exciting thing about trying to set that system up. How do you make sure ECD fits in with grade R? Then there are other really useful things today. I think, one, we know that the biggest incidents of violence in schools are actually educators who are still practicing corporal punishment. The Act criminalizes that for the very first time. Educators have corporal punishment has been illegal for a long time, but we know that educators still do it. And of course, people say there's various reasons, and discipline is one of them. But there's some really key things that come out of that Act that will help us move the sector forward. It's just really been unfortunate for me, I think, Tsidi, that the Act has been kind of marred with so much controversy, because it means then that we miss the point of why the Act was necessary to begin with. That's why I said to you at the beginning, this is a culmination of case law, where the department has been taken to court, lost, and now we've put it all together in this bill, in this Act. And so it's important for those reasons. And so I think it will bridge the gap to your question. It will bridge the equality gap in that sense because of the early child learning focus. Then, of course, the other thing which has been part of the contentious aspects is the issue around language of learning and teaching. And again, data shows us, we recently received the literacy results last week. Data shows us that kids who are being taught in their mother tongue language outperform children who are not taught in their mother tongue language. So English and Afrikaans kids outperform, and this is just beyond the disparity of resources. Kids, English and Afrikaans speaking children outperform children who are not taught in that language, who are taught in English or Afrikaans, but who are not English and Afrikaans speaking. by far. Whether it's science, by far. You'll see the graphs. Because from grade 1 to grade 3, you are taught in your mother tongue generally. And then from grade 4, you then, in particularly in say rural schools, then you start introducing English. Now you're expecting that child to learn English as a language and learn through English. So they're learning now maths or whatever, learning through English. So what the Act says is that, Section 29 of the Constitution says that where it is practicable, learners should have access to mother tongue language. And I think this is a long conversation that's been long coming. It's just so unfortunate that for me it's so divisive. Because actually, the biggest crisis here is for poor black learners who have actually been left behind because they have been taught in English and through English for a very long time. And as a result, they're being left behind in critical subjects. So those are some of the things that are exciting about this piece of legislation. It's just, we never talk about it. We talk about the...
Section 4 and 5.
Yeah.
language policy and things around SGBs as well.
And admission policies.
Admission policies.
Yeah.
But let's speak about that though. Because the counter argument in essence is that these two issues have been used to exclude many a child in particular communities. And I think that speaks more to experience of people in suburban areas. Where you try and get a child in your neighborhood, it's a predominantly Afrikaans neighborhood, the child is left out again due to language. That also is a legitimate argument to be made, is it not?
Absolutely. It is absolutely a legitimate argument to be made. And where that has happened, it actually goes against everything that our Constitution stands for. And so, again, completely debunk this. Sorry to nerd out.
No,
completely to debunk this. You are absolutely right. So what the Act seeks to do is to say, how is the decision made to admit a child? First, they apply at a school, and then the SGB is involved in setting the admission policy. And how is that admission policy, put together? Then the Act says, an SGB may accept or not accept a child on whatever reasons, but then the HOD becomes the appeal authority. So the HOD now must negotiate with the SGB for whatever reason. Now, SGBs are saying, if you are saying that the HOD is the final arbiter, you completely leave us out of the conversation. And we are the first port of governance at a school. And it's true. But at the same time, CD, no SGB, no school has the right to exclude a child on the basis of race or language or even sexual orientation, because that's something else that we're going to be dealing with very, very soon. Once South Africa moves on from Bela, we're going to be talking about gender-neutral bathrooms. We're going to be talking about transgender children. So the point is, no school is allowed to make that kind of exclusion. The real contention here is what comes first. It's the chicken or the egg. Is it the HOD first, and then we are the last arbiter as the SGB? Or is it the SGB first and then the HOD? Literally, that is the only contention here. Everybody recognizes that no child can be sent 30 kilometers away when there's a school right around the corner that they should be actually entitled to go to. So, again, there's been a lot of political noise, and fair enough. And somebody asked me the other day, why do you think this is? And I said, because this bill came in the middle of an election campaign. And it was passed and it was debated. And many people in the sector will tell you this has been years in the making. As I said, this is case law.
Yeah.
But it came in the middle of an election campaign, and it's such a pity because it's now been so polarizing. But now when I talk to you like this, you realize what is the real contention here. The contention can never be about, can we exclude black children from going to a predominantly Afrikaans school? You can't. It's against the law.